The farmer's market is among us. I started a week ago. And so I wanted a nice little bag that I could take to the market to get my produce. I also thought that you could use these as a book bag to go to the book fair, the bookstore. You could also use them for everyday grocery shopping as a reusable bag, and then you can wash it if it gets soiled. And it's a lot better than those ones that you get at the store that's kind of like a plasticky. You know, they fall apart and real easy. And this has a loop that you can, with the button that you can kind of close it and keep your stuff in there. It's got a removable base in the bottom to keep your bag stiff. So let's get started on this project. Hello and welcome. My name is Jackie with Jackie Russell Creates, where we talk about everything quilting. I want to inspire you to make traditional patchwork quilts or some art quilts, whether they're big or they're small. And they necessarily don't have to be a quilt. They can be a bag just like this. I did not quilt this bag, but you definitely can quilt it. So if you're interested on how to make this farmer's market bag, then stick around. So for this project, this farmer's market bag, you're going to need roughly about 3/4 to a full yard of fabric for the bag and for the lining. I just used scraps fabrics that I had here and cut to make the bag. So what you're going to need to do is cut the bag or the material. You're going to need 2 pieces of your main fabric. You're going to cut them at 20.5 by 16 3/4. And then you're going to need the same thing from your lining fabric, which is 20.5 by 16 3/4. And then you're going to need a piece that is 1.5 inches wide by 5 inches long. This is for the loop. It's a closing loop, so this is optional if you want to be able to close your bag or not. So you're going to need that. You can do that with your lining fabric or your main fabrics. It is on the outside, so if you had it on your lining fabric, it will give you your contrast on there. Then for your handles, you're going to need 2 of them that are 4.5 by 26 inches long. Once again, you can also do it out of your lining fabric and have contrasting. I did it the same as my main. And then you're going to need a 9.5 by 14.25 of your lining fabric. This is going to be the cover, that insert that sits in the bottom of your bag that gives a little harder bottom. And then you're going to need a piece of scrap cardboard that's 4 by 16. I just used a priority box that we had here. You could, do it out of any type cardboard, a little thicker cardboard, whatever you want. You're going to need a ruler for cutting your fabric, but I also like this Omni-Grid ruler because it has a small section grid out in the corner, and we're going to use that here in a little bit when we get started. So I think that's all that you're going to need besides your sewing machine, your rotary cutter, and some straight pins. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your main fabric. You're going to do the exact same thing for your lining as well. If you're doing directional fabric like I am doing here, you want to make sure that when you draw these squares on that we're going to draw, that you have your fabric going the right direction and that what's at the bottom is supposed to be at the bottom. So you're going to line up your piece with right sides together, and you're going to find your bottom, whatever you're going to have at your bottom, and you're going to take a ruler and you're going to draw a 2-inch square off the corner. So you can just line up your 2-inch mark on each side and then use a friction pin and draw your corner. You can cut these off to help with the miter, or you can leave them on. I will show you both ways. So we'll go ahead and we'll snip this corner. So we're just going to cut where I drew them lines. And that's going to be for the miter. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You can see here, and I'm going to leave these ones on so I can show you how to do it if you don't want to cut them off just yet. With right sides together, I'm going to go ahead and pin this, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch down the sides and along the bottom. Like I said, you're going to do the exact same process with your lining. The only thing on your lining fabric is you're going to leave a little hole along the bottom for you to be able to turn the bag around. That's the only difference that we're doing. So I'm just pinning this along the bottom and the sides. We're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. You're going to leave the top open. So I'm just going to sew. When I get to this, I'm going to back stitch at the top and the bottom just to help secure that, and then go along the bottom and the other side. Okay, so we have it stitched. I am using yellow thread, which is okay because my bag is a fall type color, and I'm okay with that. So as you can see here on the corner that we cut, I just went to the edge and then started at this edge. On this one, I went all the way down and came back. You could stop right there at your pencil mark, but that's, you know, your choice. So now what we're going to do is, if you cut your pieces, you're just going to open it up and you're going to line up those center seams and your edges, and you're just going to stitch a 1/4 inch from that edge. This is, I want to say, a 2-inch box. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that. Now, if you left it on just like this corner, all I do is put my finger in there to help flatten it out. And then I'm going to match up the corner so it's flat at the corner seam. And then I'm pinning a pin through the line to make sure that the lines match up. And it's still at that corner. And I'm going to pin it down. You can also make sure that the seams are nestled up in there. That will also give you a good indication that it's lined up. But because you know it needs to cut off, you might have, cut it off in the beginning. And then you have that line right across there, and then you'll stitch a 1/4 inch from that line, and then we would come back and cut on the line to cut that piece off. So I'm going to go sew those and do the lining. So here are our mitered corners on the bag and the lining. And on the lining here, I just left an opening about 3-4 inches to be able to turn the bag out. So we're going to set those aside, and we're going to get our loop fabric. And for the loop, you're going to press under about a 1/4 inch on each side. And then you're going to fold it in half, matching up those those folded edges, and you're going to press it, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine. And we're going to stitch down the fold and go all the way around. I go all the way around because I feel like it gives a more finished look. You can just go by stitching down the one side, but I go on both sides to give it more of a finished look. But before we sew that, we're going to go ahead and get the handles together. You're going to fold them right sides together. You're going to leave the ends open, and we're going to stitch down this long side. This bag goes very fast. You could even use it for, you know, a reusable bag instead of using plastic bags at the grocery store. You can make several of these and just take these bags, you know, to the grocery store. You know, make several of them, have them in your car. Great for gifts. You can use it as a purse, you know, a bag that you take, you know, wherever you go if you don't carry a, you know, a normal purse. I also use these bags for when I have my grandkids and I need to take some snacks or a diaper, wipes, and something like that. Great little bag to take with me and not have such a big diaper bag when I have them. Or a change of clothes, because you never know, you know, what's going to happen with, you know, the kids. So, and mine are all younger at this stage, or at this moment. You know, they're all under 6. And, you know, you never know if they, you know, get muddy, get hurt, get wet. So I'm going to take these and sew down these sides and sew down the loop. Like I said, the loop is optional. It is actually for closing the bag. So if you don't want to close the bag, you don't have to make the loop. So I'm going to go sew these down. Okay, so we have our handles stitched. We got to turn them to the right side. And here's our loop. So for the loop, you're going to take the edges that you sewn down and you're going to bring them together so they make a loop like that. You can actually stitch those together if you want, baste them together. But I'm just going to stitch them or pin them to my bag. So I'm going to line those up and I'm going to just take one corner. You're going to put it by the seam, the side seam. And I'm just putting one on each side, matching up the raw edges and pinning it in place. Now you can, like I said, baste this if you wanted to hold it down or hold them together. I'm just going to put a pin. And then when I take this over to the sewing machine, I'm just going to do a base stitch right across there to hold that on so those pins aren't in there when I go to sew the bag to the lining. So we're going to turn our handles together, or right side, and we're going to take them to the ironing board and press them. Once you're done pressing them, we're going to sew them the exact same way we did the loop. I'm going to sew a top stitch along each side. You do not have to do that, but like I said, I think it gives it a more finished look. So it is something that I will do. When I get that finished, I will come back here and we'll pin these to the bag and then attach the lining to it. So what I will do is when I press this, I'm going to stitch right down this edge and right along this edge. It will give it a more finished look, but it will also keep it from rolling and twisting among itself. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so here is our loop attached, just basted on there, just to hold it while we do the rest of the bag. We're going to lay this out. We're going to first turn it right side so we can be able to pin the straps to it. You're going to get your edges and straighten it out. We're going to take our handles and we're going to place them on our bag. You can put them wherever you would like. I found if we take and put it between the 6 and the 8, about 7.5 inches from the edge, is like a good spot for the handle. But if you like them closer, a little further apart, that's up to you. And I'm just going to pin this in place. And we're going to measure from the other side and pin it with the raw edges together, making sure that you don't have it twisted. And we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. The nice thing is you kind of have these markings here to help make sure that you're getting it so they're pretty well lined up. And I'm just making sure, because mine is a directional fabric, that the words go the right direction. So I'm just lining my ruler up and making sure the edges are together and pinning it. And then we're going to do the other side, making sure your loop ain't twisted. Just making sure the other side I have the print going the same way. And then you can actually see here where they line up. And you can base these on if you want. But I think I'm just going to take and put the lining, the bag inside the lining, matching the side seams together. You're going to have right sides together, matching up those side seams. That's important so we don't have a lopsided bag. And I'm just going to pin around the bag so we can stitch. So I'm just making sure to line up those side seams first. Make sure that you have your loop down so you don't catch it like folded up. You want to make sure it's folded down out of the way. And then just go around the edge pinning. You want to make sure that you have your loops down as well as that they are out of the way, because you don't want to pin or sew them as well up. I'm gonna take this pin that's holding this out and put it on the outside, making sure the raw edges are lined up. You can put as many pins as you want to be able to hold this lining to the bag. Then when you get to those handles, make sure you have them straight. All the raw edges are together when you pin it. I have had one where it's got sideways and I had to take it out because the handle was not straight and because it slipped. Now we're going to go and we're just going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam along the top. Make sure you're only getting the 2 layers. You're not sewing it closed. Okay, so now it's sewn together. We're going to turn it right side through the lining hole that we left, making sure that your box corners are all out where we stitch it down. We can't get our fingers in there to get them out. So just making sure every corner's down. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just take this back to the machine and stitch down, or stitch this closed. You can also whip stitch it. I'm just going to do a little stitch across that opening because it is going to get covered up. So at this point your bag is pretty much done. You're just going to shove the lining inside the bag, and I'm going to take it over to the ironing board and kind of just press it so I can do like a finishing top stitch on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the ironing board, and then I'm going to come and do a top stitch along the top edge, along the whole part of the bag, making sure that the loop is above the stitching and the handles are above the stitching. So I'm going to do that, and we will be right back. So here's the bag. You could pretty much call this finished. All you would have to do is put your button, so a button over on this other side seam so it can close, and you have your little bag. Like I said, you can close it, you don't have to close it. It'd also be great for a book bag. You could also put this loop here in the center to be able to close it here instead of along the sides. But we have one more step. You have the cover fabric, which what you're going to do is you're going to take it to the iron and you're going to press down a side roughly anywhere between a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch. And you're going to just press that down. Then you're going to sew right sides together. And we're going to take from where we pressed down the side and along this bottom to make a closure. So we can put that hard cardboard in the bottom of our bag to keep it open. So this is giving you the finished edge. And we'll just do a little stitch once we're flip it around. So you're gonna stitch down the long side and along this bottom edge about a 1/4 inch. You can just pivot here. You don't have to back stitch. Okay, so we have it stitched. I'm going to clip this corner and this corner, and then we're going to turn it right side. And I'm not going to do a top stitch. You could, I guess, if you wanted to have it, totally finished. But we're putting this cardboard piece that we cut. And there's, I guess, if you cut the cardboard just a little bit smaller, you can do your top stitching. You just slide your cardboard in there, and we're just going to stitch down this edge. Now, the nice thing is if this cardboard gets unruly and it's not stiff no more and doing its job, you can always just pick this out, put a new piece in, and drop it back in. That's all we have to do. So I'm going to stitch this down and finish up our bag. Now all I have to do is slide it in to the bottom of our bag so it has a sturdier bottom. Now you can go to the farmer's market and style. So if you like this project and got something useful out of this video, then give it a thumbs up. And thank you for watching to the end. I really appreciate that. In the comments below, let me know what you will use your bag for. And if you plan on quilting it or not. And if you're new here and you want to learn some more sewing and quilting techniques, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know when I upload a video. Until then, happy quilting, my friends.